Hi, I'm Josh, and I'm not exactly sure if I like my new glasses. I kind of feel like I should have stuck with my usual black plastic frames, but you don't really know unless you try these things, do you? So, I don't know. Anyways, I'm so grateful you've decided to join me as I talk about some books that I have hauled. Essentially, these are all the books that I have hauled since I last talked about hauling books, which that last video was posted on November 8th, 2022, and I'm recording this on August 9th, 2024, so it's been pretty much exactly 21 months since I talked about the books I've acquired. So in that time, I've actually acquired exactly 50 books, and so I'm going to go over the 50 books very quickly that I picked up in the past 21 months. This has been a good exercise for me because in general, I'm pretty uncomfortable with the whole consumerism aspect of hauls, book hauls, board game hauls, whatever. People showing up with these giant piles of things that they have acquired. On the other hand, I love supporting authors and publishers, and so, it's nice that these people are being supported. On the other hand, for me personally, I don't like to acquire things just to have them. I like to acquire them to actually enjoy them and use them. And what I realized was that having acquired more than 2 books a month over the past 21 months means that I'm accumulating books faster than I can read them, because I tend to read roughly 1 book a month on average. So it's kind of made me sit down and realize, even if a book is totally free and it is a book that I would read, I do have to ask myself the question, will I read this book? Is this one likely to reach the top of my giant to be read pile and actually get read, or is it going to just sit indefinitely on my shelf as a book that I would probably enjoy but is not a priority to actually get to? So anyways, like I said, I have 50 books to go over super fast. 18 of the 50 were free books, 17 were discounted books, and 15 I purchased basically at full price. Let's start with those 18 free books, 10 of which were gifted to me, and 8 of them I found in various little free book libraries, little book boxes that are on people's front lawns. So the ones that were given to me as gifts, the first few come from my friend Paul, who I do a lot of board gaming with, and he was downsizing some of his own book collection. So I acquired 2 books in one here, which are Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. That is absolutely brand new, in perfect condition, so that's pretty cool. I read both of those books many, many years ago when I was a young kid, and I'd probably enjoy a reread of those at some point. And Paul also gave me 1984 by George Orwell. This is one of those that, it's obviously a classic. I don't know if I'm actually going to get to it at some point, though. This one was kind of a joke gift. So this past Christmas, my family did kind of a $20 gift exchange. What do they call that? A white elephant, where you can trade gifts as people are opening them. Anyway, one of my brothers picked this up as a joke. It's called Eyewitness Vietnam, First-Hand Accounts from Operation Rolling Thunder to the Fall of Saigon by Donald L. Gilmore with D.M. Giangreco. Now, I think one of my nephews opened this up and got this as the gift, and then I saw it and I was like, oh, I like history. I'll trade you the trinket I got. So I ended up with this interesting book, and it came with a DVD as well. So yeah, I got a DVD with that. Now, the next one was a gift from one of my viewers of the channel here, a really nice fellow named Mojo Chris, and he sent me 3 books in one. This is the Belgariad Volume 1 that comprises Pawn of Prophecy, Queen of Sorcery, and Magician's Gambit by David Eddings. This is high on my priority of books to get to. There are a couple more I'd like to get to first, but I do hope to get to these 3 books in one before the end of the year, and he did say if I enjoy them he would send me the other 3 books in this 6-book series, so that's really, really generous of him, and I'm really grateful to Mojo Chris for that. Now, speaking of gratitude, for my past birthday, one of my good friends who I play a lot of Magic the Gathering with gave me a first printing of the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien, and apparently this is a more sought after William Close and Sons edition that was printed in 1977, so that's really special. I don't know if the Silmarillion is a book I would read. I kind of doubt it, but it's a really special thing to have, given how much of a fan I am of The Hobbit and the trilogy of books. And then the same friend also found for me a book called The Complete Tolkien Companion by J.E.A. Tyler at a thrift shop, and thought of me and picked it up for me. And so this is just a reference book that alphabetically references all kinds of Tolkien terms and explains them. And I've actually found this to be really practically useful, because as I'm building my Magic the Gathering decks that are Lord of the Rings themed, I'm getting all these cards and I'm going, oh, what is this card referencing? And so I'll look it up, and then based on what the card is referencing, that'll determine which deck I put it into. So those are really cool to get. And then the last thing I received from one of my brothers is a nonfiction book, I think, called Underland, A Deep Time Journey by Robert McFarlane. And this is one that I'm going to get to very soon. Again, another one hopefully before the end of the year. So those were the 10 that were gifted to me. As for the 8 that I found in various book boxes, these are the type of things where I will, every so often, I'll leave a book or two in one of these book boxes, and then another time I might come by and I'll find a book or two that I will like and take. Unfortunately, I haven't kept track of the books that I've unhauled over these past 21 months. So I don't have a record of all the books that I have either left in book boxes or just put up for sale on Facebook Marketplace. However, these are the books that I found. The first one being another nonfiction collection of stories called What the Dog Saw and Other Adventures by Malcolm Gladwell. This is just a collection of interesting facts about various random topics, I believe. I did really like Malcolm Gladwell's podcast called Revisionist History. However, as time has gone on, I've kind of liked it a little less and less, but it should be an interesting read nonetheless. The next one is a Reader's Digest book called World War II, The People's Story, edited by Nigel Fountain. Obviously, a lot of photographs and interesting history stuff in there for me. I have next another Mark Twain book called Life on the Mississippi, which Mark Twain as a writer is obviously one of the best fiction writers that we've had in the past couple centuries, I believe. And then I have 3 by Sir Walter Scott that I picked up. I have Rob Roy, Red Gauntlet, and The Bride of Lammermoor. So these are examples of books that, will I actually get to these at some point? I don't know. I know I've read Sir Walter Scott in the distant past as a kid again. It seems doubtful that I will get to these at some point, but time will tell. I might have to put them back in one of the local book boxes and just kind of give it back again. Another one I found was Redcoat, The British Soldier in the Age of Horse and Musket by Richard Holmes. So some more nonfiction history. And then the last one I found was this fantastic find, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. A giant tome of a fantasy book that, how many pages is it? It's almost 800 pages here. So, and Susanna Clarke, her writing is as well is really kind of special and different, I think. So yeah, that was a cool find. The next 17 books I got discounted in various places. These first 9 I found at thrift shops. So we have Half a King by Joe Abercrombie, and this is book 1 of the Shattered Sea trilogy. And I really like this little paperback edition. It's in really good condition, and I really kind of like the design of that paperback. The next one is also a Joe Abercrombie book. This is Half a War, and it is book 3 of the same Shattered Sea trilogy, a fantasy series. Now this one is in hardcover, and it appears to be in absolutely mint condition, and it even has a bookstore bookmark in the front of it. Oh, it's a book depository bookmark. So I feel like somebody ordered this online from Book Depository and then just never read it. Now, I'm not as big a fan of hardcovers for reading, but this edition is super nice. It has a really cool cover, and for my old eyes, it has nice large print in it. So yeah, I mean, I would love to have the trilogy in all the same format. Obviously, I've got book 1 in paperback. I don't have book 2, and then I have book 3 in hardcover. That's not ideal, but it was cheap, so there you go. The next one is another fantasy book called The Lost Queen by Signe Pike. This is book one of the Lost Queen trilogy, which I believe is an ongoing series. It hasn't been finished yet, but it is a trilogy that I thought looks like it might be up my alley, especially given my interest in Juliette Marillier's books. And guess who's next? Juliette Marillier with Wolfskin. So I quite enjoyed the 6 books of that other Juliette Marillier series I read. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. I'll have to put it here. So having seen another Juliette Marillier book at the thrift shop, seemed like it was a worthwhile purchase. Next up is, from the nonfiction section, a book called Moving Targets, Writing with Intent, 1982 to 2004 by Margaret Atwood. So I'm always interested in learning how to write better, and this book is in fantastic condition, and it's something that I'm definitely interested in reading when I get a chance. The next one is one that I was actively looking for at the thrift shops, and this is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is apparently the original 1818 text second edition, whatever that means, edited by D.L. MacDonald and Kathleen Sheriff. So again, this is fairly high up on my priority of books to read in the relatively near future, maybe. 2 more that I believe are from a fantasy steampunk series are Johannes Cabal, the Necromancer by Jonathan L. Howard, and from the same series, Johannes Cabal, the Detective, a swashbuckling mystery set in a steampunk world. That sounds fantastic, right up my alley. Great thrift shop finds. And the last thrift shop find was Neuromancer by William Gibson, a classic sci-fi novel. I don't know much about it other than that, despite it being a classic, so maybe I'll get to it eventually. Continuing with my discounted books, the next 3 came from sales from various book retailers. We have Barney's Version by Mordecai Richler, which I think might have been recommended by Brian from the channel Bookish. I think it might have been him. The next 2 books are a bind-up in one. This is Cordelia's Honor, which is a bind-up of Shards of Honor and Barrayar by Lois McMaster Bujold. And these are the books that I most recently completed, and so I have a video up on my channel that was recently posted about these 2 books. They ended up being a disappointment, unfortunately. Now this next one was on sale because it was a pre-sale. I think this is the only time I've ever purchased a book via pre-sale, and this is Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldry. Having quite enjoyed Legends and Lattes by the same author, I definitely knew this was one that I wanted to get to. Again, relatively high in the priority list, along with so many others, including this one. So these last 4 books in the discount section come from a sale, actually Book Depository, which I think that bookmark was from, was a online retailer that went out of business, I believe. So they had a closing down sale, and I picked up these 4 books. The first one being Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Now, I really enjoyed T. Kingfisher's duology, the Clock Tower War duology, and so I was very much looking forward to this. However, recently Charles on the channel Bookish Chaz reviewed this book, and he enjoyed it, but wasn't super thrilled with it. So that'll be interesting to see what I end up thinking of Nettle and Bone. It's a fantasy novel. The next one is another one that I have read and that I have a video up on my channel. This is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This is an amazing book, one of my top books of all time, and an absolute beast of a book at the same time here. Then we have Red Country by Joe Abercrombie, which I think is one of his standalone books. Either that or it's the series of short stories, but I think it's the standalone. Not exactly sure now. And then the last one is another fantasy novel called The Black Coast by Mike Brooks, which is just an absolutely gorgeous paperback. Another one that I'd just love to read in the near future, like all the rest. And then finally, these are the 15 books that I actually paid full price for. Thank you to my Patreon supporters with enabling me to do so, especially to my higher tier supporters, Aba O, Joanna N, and my highest tier supporter, Osmandas Pervect. I can say without a doubt that without your support, I wouldn't have all these amazing books to purchase. I would definitely have been able to pick up a few, but certainly not all these amazing titles. So the first of the new books here is the aforementioned Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. So like I said, I read it and enjoyed it. This is definitely cozy fantasy, although I disagree with people describing it as low stakes fantasy. If you want to know why, check out my video. Now, another fantasy novel I really want to get to is The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, which is the first in a series called the Tide Child Trilogy. I think I forgot to mention that The Black Coast was also the first of a series called the God King Chronicles Trilogy. But so many, not just single books, but actual series I want to get to. And I have several of these first books in the series to at least try it out and see if I want to purchase the rest of the books. Here's another one that I think is more of a steampunk fantasy called Legacy of the Brightwash by Crystal Matar. I'm a sucker for steampunk settings, and I'm always looking for good steampunk novels. So this is quite a big one, and it should be interesting to check out at some point. We go back to some history nonfiction here with The Guns of August by Barbara W. Tuchman. This is a very highly spoken of book about the First World War. So again, one that I would love to get to soon. Now, this next one is probably my only real regret amongst all these purchases, and this is a hardcover copy of Babel, an Arcane History by R.F. Kuang. I just don't think that this is one with all these other amazing books that I'm really going to prioritize. In fact, I might end up putting it up for sale on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, see if I can get a bit of money back for that one. And then the next couple here were definitely recommended by Brian from the channel Bookish. We have A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. I think that was recommended by Brian, if I remember correctly. This one was Leonard and Hungry Paul by Ronan Hession, in the kind of literary fiction category, I believe. And then this one also recommended by Brian called the Regeneration Trilogy, 3 books in one that consists of Regeneration, The Eye in the Door, and The Ghost Road by Pat Barker. And then I just have 2 little $7 puzzle books. I have a book of crosswords and a Sudoku book, which I'm almost finished both of them. I've almost completed all 225 puzzles in both these little books. And the last 3, this one I don't have in hand because it's by my bedside and I forgot to get it because I'm currently reading it. This is The Black Dahlia by James Ellroy. It is a noir detective fiction, and to be honest, I'm not loving it. I'm about halfway through, so we'll see how the second half of that book goes. We have a book now that was recommended by Zara from Books with Zara called Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This is supposed to be a really compelling science fiction novel. And then the one I picked up just recently when I was out on a family camping trip and we went into town and checked out some bookstores and whatnot. This is A Man Called Ova by Frederick Bachman. I read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, and it instantly became a 10 out of 10 all-time favorite novel. Definitely the best book about suicide that I've ever read. So I definitely wanted to check out some more Bachman, and so I picked up A Man Called Ova, partly to support also the little independent bookstore in that little town there. And that's it. That's my 50 book haul of the past 21 months. What have you picked up lately? What are you really excited to get to in the near future? I would love to hear about it if you would get into the comments and let me know, and I just appreciate you watching me show off some books. Cheers. The whole consumerism. 19 of the 50 were free books. Sorry, 18, which are Tom Sawyer. So I quite enjoyed the 6 books of Juliette Marillier's. What the f is it called? So I quite enjoyed the 6th book. What's his name? Have I put these backwards? Oh my god. Alright. And enjoyed it. in a favorite